make copies for everyone.
Oh, okay.
For unanimous consent.
Good evening, and welcome to the regular meeting of the Council of the City of Long Beach, held Tuesday, September 6th, 2022 at 7 p.m. We'll have a roll call. Councilmember Posterly.
Here.
Councilmember Lester. Here. Councilmember Bendo.
Here.
Vice President Treston. Here. President McGinnis.
Here.
Let the record indicate the presence of City Manager Donna Gaden and Corporation Counsel Richard Berrios. We'll now have a salute to the flag.
You want to say the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And in case you missed it, item 19 has been added by unanimous consent. Copies will be available momentarily.
Did you say something? No. Okay. Okay. I will do, all right. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the first September meeting of the Long Beach City Council. We have a really packed agenda tonight, but we're going to try to get through it as fast as we can, of course. So thank you for your patience. I want to wish everyone a happy September. Welcome back to school, to college, to work. It was a great summer. And on behalf of the entire City Council, I just wanted to extend our thanks and gratitude to all the city employees who made 2022 a great summer season. The CSEA, the LBPD, the LBFD, the Beach Patrol, Beach Maintenance, Beach Park, camps, summer specials, and the LB Auxiliary, and whoever else I missed, I'm sorry. It was our first real post-pandemic restriction summer, and we found out that sharks live in the ocean, but the city was buzzing and the beach was beautiful. And most importantly, as Chief Gillespie likes to say, everyone who came to the beach went home from the beach. So thank you all for a safe and beautiful summer. At this time, I'd like to hand it over to Ms. Donna Gaden, the City Manager.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. Our first report is from Commissioner Joe Brand.
Good evening, everybody. Just piggybacking some of Karen's sentiments. It was our first post-pandemic summer, not without some bumps and bruises, but all in all, we had what I think we would consider to be a successful season in terms of the Ocean Beach Park. This is by no means a detailed report, but just a couple of quick overviews that I'd like to share with the council and the public, and just let everybody know that a complete reconciliation will be performed early next month once everything has been finalized. Unofficial results, we did about, for the season, $4.4 million, about $400,000 more than last year. Our digital pass sales went up by almost $120,000. The success with that is largely the app-based daily passes. And I guess, I don't know, the one alarming trend that I'm looking into quite a bit more, and Ina and I and some of the lifeguard patrol have had a lot of conversation about it already, is the commuters and the Long Island Railroad and the people that are coming here from the city, because we're not seeing anywhere near what we used to see in terms of people getting off the Long Island Railroad. Whether that means they're going other places, whether that means the railroad's got to do, or the MTA in this case, has got to do a better job of advertising it. But coming up with a way, right now, $120,000 we did in railroad exchanges this year. You know, if I look back to years prior, I mean, there were years where we did $4.3 million. So, I'm sorry, $430,000.
One moment, please. One moment, please. Joe, I'm sorry. Did you have a question?
Can you just repeat the Long Island
What we did for the year, 120,000. That hasn't been reconciled with the MTA yet, but for the lack of, for lack of the conversation. But we have had summers where we've done $488,000 with them. So you can see there, a $360,000 difference is a lot of money. So, and you don't see, for people that have been in town a long time, you remember what it looked like. We'd have crowds of people that stretched from literally the boardwalk back to Park Avenue, and we didn't see that at all. And I mean, we have had conversations and we have ideas of what some of it is, but that's the stuff we're going to have to get into for next year in order to try and win them back. We got plenty of beach there now. We want them back. But that's about it. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to try and answer them. And a detailed report. I know we already have a meeting date set up for early August where we'll get rolling with it and have a report much earlier this year than last year.
Yeah, Joe, one question. What was the last year's combination, Long Island Railroad and Beach Pass? How much was that and how much was it this year?
This year was 120. Again, that's unofficial.
Yeah.
Last year,
I'm just talking about a regular ticket, a regular person. What would they charge for the combination ticket and
we get $12 off of each
I'm
one.
asking what they were charged by Long Island Railroad.
Oh, it's like $26. They get round-trip railroad fare and a voucher that they exchange for
and what was
a
it
beach
last
pass.
year?
I don't know. I'm not sure. Maybe they might have been the same.
I think it was this
Yeah.
year. All right.
And when you break it down, I don't know when the last time you took a round trip train to the city, but
I get the senior discount.
yeah, but I mean the cost of a train ticket's astronomical. I just don't think I don't think people know that. I mean, you're basically getting round-trip railroad fare for for $12, $13.
I just wanted to know if it had been raised, if that was part of the reason. No, it wasn't. Okay,
no.
thanks.
Yeah, their ridership is down so much they're doing anything they can to get people to come.
All right, thank you.
And as has been said at previous meetings, this year we're going to have a new subcommittee of City Council members, Lester, Posterly, and myself, where we're going to start to work with the staff in October, actually, and to review the performance of the Ocean Beach Park and ways that we can hopefully work together and to improve the situation.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Brand. Next is for upcoming events, Mr. John McNally.
Evening, everybody. Variation on the same theme, I guess. End of official summer, long live local summer. While the official summer season is over, we still have a lot going on in the city. So I will just give a kind of preview of what we can expect over the next month. There's going to be a community painting project in conjunction with the Long Beach Arts Council over at the rec sort of playground area where there's the one empty trailer, I guess is the best word for it, that abuts the fields. A artist has been hired to do a mural there, and then there's going to be a bunch of painting along the pathways that anyone of any skill set can come and join in. It's stencil based. So just go email to lbnyartscouncil@gmail.com and you can sign up for one of the slots. Also, there is this weekend, there is Arts in the Plaza and Farmers Market. As part of that, our economic development team is going to be there tabling and talking about, we are applying from the state for large grants to revitalize downtown Main Street, Park Avenue. So they're going to be getting residential input there. You can also email economicdevelopment@longbeachny.gov if you have ideas about what our Main Street and what our central business district should look like. The last thing for the 10th is Michelle O'Neill. A great number of people throughout the city play the volleyball tournament, but it's also a heads up for anyone that lives in the proximity. Parking will be tight Saturday throughout most of the day, so if you don't got to move your car, don't move your car because you're not going to get your spot back. The 11th is obviously 9/11. There is a remembrance at Magnolia Pier, so anyone that wants to go down there at any point in time from 8 o'clock on, there'll be tiki torches, there'll be flags. It's set up for really quiet remembrance and reflection. At 5 o'clock in the afternoon at the Firemen's Memorial, West Park Avenue between Washington and Lafayette, there will be a ceremony, citywide ceremony led by the fire department. All are invited to attend that as well. Also during the day is King and Queens the Beach surf competition. So there is a whole lot going on Saturday and Sunday. The following Saturday, the 17th, is International Coastal Cleanup Day. Jacques Cousteau's nephew will be on, I believe, New York Avenue Beach. For anyone that wants to come down and help clean up the beach, all are invited to that as well. On the 23rd, which is a Friday, it's the last Centennial Nights in the Plaza. So Arts in the Plaza has been partnering with the city. It's been really great events. Music, vendors are out there. Fun for the whole family. It's the last one of the season. We thank them for their partnership on that. And then two big ones coming later on. October 1st, AOH Irish Day is back once again. And then on both Saturday and Sunday, October 8th and 9th, for the first time in 3 years now, Fall Festival is back. So that'll be 10 o'clock to 3 o'clock or 10 o'clock to 5 o'clock in Kennedy Plaza and beyond City Hall. All the things that we love, plus some new things, will be back again this year. So, we hit upon post-pandemic. We're looking forward to another bit of resumption of normal. And that's all I got, absent any questions.
Being no questions, thank you, Mr. McNally. The last report under me would be Corporation Counsel. Mr. Barrios will give an update on the Long Island Railroad.
Yes, good evening, everyone. So during our last council meeting, I provided a brief update regarding the Long Island Railroad and the city with regard to its North Shore Critical Infrastructure Project, our North Shore Critical Infrastructure Project. Further update, my office met with attorneys for the Long Island Railroad on Friday. We're still doing a page turn. We had identified a couple of issues. We each gave each other homework, and we'll be turning that around within the week. And the hope is, again, to have this contract ready to go by the second meeting in September or the first meeting in October at the latest. Both parties are working diligently towards, an end to the negotiations and discussion, and we look forward to moving forward.
Thank you, Mr. Barrios.
That concludes my report.
Regular calendar? Okay, on to the regular calendar. As I announced earlier, an item has been added by unanimous consent. Copies are on the table in the back. First item is a public hearing for resolution granting waiver of off-street parking requirements for premise 301 West Park Avenue, Long Beach, for a convenience store. I believe the gentleman is from the proprietor is here.
Good evening, Mr. Almosai.
Good evening.
So I understand that you're opening a convenience store
Yes.
at 301 West Park Avenue.
Yes.
I see that it will be open 7 days a week.
Yes.
For 16 hours a day. Can you let us know what the actual times would be?
The times?
Yes.
So, well, I'm not sure exactly from what time to what time we're going to be opening, but it depends on how business is. But probably 8 hours a day, 10 hours, the most.
10 hours. And how many employees will you have, and how many will be Long Beach residents?
We'll have 3 employees, two from Long Beach.
Okay. And can you tell us about what you will sell at the convenience store?
Yes, it's going to be an organic convenience store.
Did you say organic?
Yeah.
Organic. So you'll be making grab-and-go meals or a combination?
No food, just like chips, organic chips, nuts, drinks. Well, we're going to have other stuff. We're going to have phone accessories, similar to a 7-Eleven. you could say.
Similar to a 7-Eleven?
Yeah, but mostly organics.
Okay. Will there be any products that cannot be sold to minors?
No. I mean, we're going to have a little bit of tobacco, but nothing else.
Tobacco. Okay. Any questions from the council?
Would you consider having a bike rack installed on the side of the property?
What happened?
A bike rack, would you consider having a bike rack?
Yeah, that's fine.
Thank you. Any other questions from the council? Okay, well, thank you.
Quick questions from the public.
I'm sorry?
Public.
Oh, I'm sorry, the public? Are there any questions from the public? Yes? Please make your way up to the microphone and state your name and address. Thank you.
Henrietta Stab, Long Beach. I just had a question from what you just said. What's a little bit of tobacco?
Just like similar to a 7-Eleven, you see how they got it in the back with the, just, it's not too much, it's just a little bit. Like, I don't know how to explain it.
Cigarettes and...
Yeah, like cigarettes, that's it. And then what they call them, the pouches, that's it.
Okay. Any other questions from the public? Seeing none, we'll vote. We'll go to a vote for this item.
Close the hearing.
Oh, I have to close the hearing. The hearing is closed.
Okay, and vote on. Okay, so going on to the calendar. Item 1 is a resolution granting waiver of off-street parking requirements for premise 301 West Park Avenue, Street 4, Long Beach, New York, for a convenience store. Who introduce and move the adoption of this item?
I will. Oh,
Second?
who'd you get for first? Then I'll second.
Okay. Voting, Councilmember Postoli.
Yes.
Councilmember Lester.
Yes.
Councilmember Bendo.
Yes, and welcome to Long Beach, and good luck.
Vice President Treston.
Yes.
President McGinnis.
Yes, congratulations.
Item 2 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to amend the current agreement for engineering services to prepare a saltwater intrusion study.
Thank you, sir.
Oh. This one was really good.
You get to leave.
Good evening, Joe Fabrizio, Commissioner of Public Works. This resolution is authorizing the city manager to amend the current agreement with PW Grosser Consulting Incorporated. The amendment is a $50,000 increase to the original contract value of $79,020. PW Grosser was retained on July 20th, 2021 to undertake a saltwater intrusion study. The scope of work was to review existing groundwater models related to the Lloyd Aquifer, review data related to pumpage trends and chloride data, provide an opinion of timing of existing wells being impacted by saltwater, and 4, to develop options for meeting water needs in the event of saltwater intrusion. Unfortunately, their study was predicated on the existence of existing information. One was the Nassau County groundwater model, which has apparently not been maintained and is not up to date, and their groundwater modeler had retired. And also the USGS Long Island groundwater model, which is currently in the process of being updated, and it won't be complete till late 2023 or early 2024. The additional scope of work that PW Grosser will be undertaking includes the preparation of a sub-regional transient groundwater model specific to the city of Long Beach. The benefits of building a model specific to Long Beach is that it will provide the city with its own model that can be run, modified, and updated independently of other agencies, and anytime based on changing conditions as new data becomes available. And we do have funding available in the capital budget for this change order, or change to the, amending the contract. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Mr. Lester?
Okay. Joe, a couple of things. It says here, provide an opinion on the timing of existing wells being impacted by salt water. Does that mean there's a continual monitoring of the quality of the water coming up?
Absolutely, yes. We do sampling regularly on all 8 of our production wells to determine if the salt water, and I'll give you a perfect example of an issue we're having right now with well number 17. It's one of our newest wells, and for the last couple of years, we've actually, when it pumps initially, you're getting very high saltwater readings. And then after it pumps for like maybe 2 hours, it drops to 0. So in this case, we're not permitted to use well number 17. We're in the process, we've retained a firm that's trying to figure out, why this is happening. We feel that in this specific case, that there's contamination coming from an upper layer, like the Magathy layer. We get our water from the Lloyd. So they feel, I'm sorry.
Do we actually go into the, what is it, Magnum?
Magathy. That's an upper layer.
Yes.
We get our water from the Lloyd, which is approximately
Right. So
1,200 feet down. So they feel that there's a crack in the casing somewhere in the upper layer, like possibly the Magathy layer.
Oh, okay.
That's where it's coming in, but they don't know where it is. We've TV'd the well, and they cannot see anything. There's some other technology that's a little more sophisticated that we're going to be pursuing to determine where it's potentially coming from, because it would be a shame if we have to abandon this well. That's
Could we not line the pipe the way we do our sewers?
It depends. That's a good question. It's a newer well, so it could be lined, but you wouldn't want to line it if it's coming from the Lloyd, because you'd just be wasting your money.
Right, yeah, no.
You would only line it if you knew it was coming from an upper level
Right.
crack in the casing, but you would not want to line it if it was coming from somewhere in the screen at 1,200 feet down, because you would just be wasting your money.
Now-
So that's what we're trying to figure out right now. Is it a lining candidate?
Yeah.
Or does it, can it be repaired? Or do we have to totally abandon it and build a new well?
Now, and I know I'm jumping ahead a little, when we go into 16A, the new one that we want to do, how do we know what depth we have to go to? Do we just test the water as we're doing it?
That's all determined by H2M is the consulting firm that we retain to put the plans and specifications. But it's actually interesting you mentioned 16A. Right now, we actually did receive the bid for well number 16A from AC Schultes. It came in at about $2.2 million, which is a fantastic price. But we have been unable to get the permit because of the issues we're having with well 17, which is in close proximity to 16. It's probably about 200 feet away. So the DEC is against giving us the permit right now until we could tell them what is happening with 17. So they're predicating the approval of 16 on what's going on with 17.
And a little confused,
Sure.
Nassau County had a model for the saltwater intrusion.
Yeah, the Nassau County groundwater model, yes.
And their model, they stopped with the model.
They haven't updated it, and apparently
Right.
it's been quite a while.
Now, what is it, USGA?
USGS.
USGS is going to have something completed by the end of this coming year.
Tentatively 2023, potentially 2024.
And will that give us the same information that we're now paying the extra $50,000?
It's not going to give you the same level of detail that we're going to have by doing our own model that could be changed at any time given certain conditions.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, when we put the request for proposals together, we weren't aware that those two models weren't essentially active or were outdated, and that's again what their proposal was predicated on. They had given me this proposal back in March, and I think Councilman Bendo had actually mentioned to me what happened to the saltwater intrusion study, and I've been so busy with other things that I hadn't put it in front of the council for approval, but I did have the proposal from PW Grosser. And this is really what we need to move to the next step with them, because their work is essentially ceased. They haven't done anything since March on this project. They were waiting for me to put forth the resolution for council approval.
And I think I remember from one of your prior presentations that saltwater patch or whatever, whatever you want to call it. I was one of those kids who grew up thinking once you put salt in water, it's all contaminated. And you taught me that, no, the salt water is heavier, so it goes down. Doesn't that kind of change over time?
One of the problems is they really don't know where the salt water, let's call it the saltwater wedge, is, where the interface is between the salt and the fresh water. I mean, it is potentially, I don't want to sound the alarms, but it's potentially a very serious issue for City of Long Beach residents, because we're one of the few communities that draw from the Lloyd. And, our alternatives right now would be to open the interconnects at Atlantic Beach and Lido, or build some sort of desalinization plant. There's no good options, really, quite honestly. It's kind of a scary thought.
But you said something interesting. Options are to connect at Atlantic Beach or Lido. don't they have the same problem, or is it unique?
That's actually, you know what, that's a good point. Lido Beach, and we just went through with the town of Hempstead an emergency situation
Right.
where they couldn't draw, they needed to open the interconnect because they were having an issue with their water purification plant, where they were having, they just had new sand filter work done at the complex, and they were getting contaminants, and they couldn't put it online. So they were in jeopardy of, basically, they would have lost all pressure in the system, and they would have lost potable drinking water supply over 4th of July weekend. So we worked collaboratively with them to actually open the interconnect, and they are paying for the water, by the way. We did charge them. It was approximately $80,000 for the overtime and the water usage, and I haven't gotten the check yet, but they're supposed to be.
That's almost my
reimbursed in the
water
city.
bill.
What's that?
That's almost my water bill.
Yeah, so right, sure.
Mr. Lester, did you have any more questions?
Yes. Do Lido and Atlantic Beach go to the same depth? Are we all at the same depth?
I believe they're at the same depth. Yeah, they're 1,200. They're all the Lloyd wells, and I have all the sections in the emergency water supply plan in my office. They're all down about 1,200 plus feet, and it gives you the whole section of the different layers going down 1,200 feet. You know, sand, gravel, clay, and so forth. What you're going through. So it's quite interesting. You know, one day if you want to come up, or anybody wants to come up, to have a discussion on it, it's very interesting.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Mr. Fabrizio, I had a question about the, I think it's a 2019 capital plan account that we would get the funds from.
Correct. Okay.
What was what were those funds originally supposed to be for?
I believe there was. I don't have it in front of me, but I think we initially allocated approximately $150,000 for the saltwater intrusion study, but the price came in extremely low.
Okay.
The original cost was only $79,000. So we had ample money now to award the change order because we actually borrowed in 2019 well, we didn't know it was going to be more. It was more than we really needed.
And we can only spend the money on
it could
this
only
project.
That was borrowed, authorized and borrowed for that
this.
specific project, so it could only be used for that project.
It's great, thank you.
So essentially, if we didn't use that money, we would have used it to pay down debt.
We've already borrowed it.
Right, but if there was a balance, we would use the balance to pay debt service.
Okay.
If we
not
didn't-
not relevant here, right?
Right, no,
Okay.
just.
Okay,
no.
Mr. Benham, do you have a question?
Yeah. If the Nassau County model is out of date, and the U.S. Geological Service model is at least 7 years out of date, where are they getting the data from to develop a model?
That I don't know. I don't know the answer to that.
Okay. I mean, it seems like we're spending $50,000 potentially to develop a model with out-of-date data. Is that possibly what we're doing here?
I don't think so, but I could certainly pose that question. PW Grossa did want to come tonight. I didn't think it was actually necessary. So if you have any other specific questions, I'd be happy to get back to you regarding the information needed to prepare the new model.
All right. Who would?
I don't want to give you the poor, wrong
Right.
information.
Who would own and maintain the model?
The city would own the model, and they would maintain it. We don't have the ability to maintain it, so they would have to maintain it because they have the software, which we don't have. We don't have the ability to do that in-house.
So if we own the model, but would all future work done with the model have to be done through PW Grosser?
I would presume so. Correct.
Okay. And then I'm assuming going forward there would be some maintenance costs to keep the model up to date. And
Yeah, I don't see it being a significant cost.
okay. Thank you.
Any other questions from the council on this item? Any questions from the public on this item? Seeing none?
Item 3 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to apply for and accept, if awarded, a New York State Environmental Facilities Cooperation Water Infrastructure Improvement Act grant for the 1.25 million gallon elevated water storage tank project for the maximum cost of $9,240,540.
Mr. Barrios?
Dave, I think it's going to be easier if we just call out all amendments to 3, 4, and 5 since they're all uniform. For the public's information, I'm basically recommending an amendment on the floor to make some edits to the resolutions to conform with real-time information. Super boring, I know, I'm sorry, just bear with me. So for items 3, 4, and 5, the city has historically broken these projects into 2 separate meetings. One to authorize the application for the grant and a subsequent meeting to issue a determination under SECRA. Because of the approaching deadline on these particular projects and the grants, we don't have the luxury of 2 meetings. So fortunately, the SECRA review has been done by our consultant, and these edits are to reflect all of our obligations under the State Environmental Quality Review Act. So here comes the fun stuff. Replacing the 7th whereas clause in item 3, the 9th whereas clause in item 4, and the 8th whereas clause in item 5 as follows. Quote, whereas the grant submission process requires environmental review and analysis in accordance with the State Environmental Quality Review Act. Close quote. Adding an 8th whereas clause in item 3, a 10th whereas clause in item 4, and a 9th whereas clause in item 5 as follows. Quote, whereas the city's engineer, H2M Architects and Engineers, has completed its environmental review and analysis of the subject project and recommends a determination classifying the project as a type 2 action. Close quote. And then finally, adding a new resolve paragraph to the end of items 3, 4, and 5 as follows. Quote, resolved that the City Council declares itself lead agency for the City of Long Beach, hereby adopts this resolution and determines that the above referenced project constitutes a type 2 action pursuant to SECRA and therefore requires no further review in accordance with SECRA 6 New York Code of Rules and Regulations, Section 617.5, stating that replacement, rehabilitation, or reconstruction of a structure or facility in kind on the same site, including upgrading buildings to meet building, energy, or fire codes, unless such action meets or exceeds any of the thresholds in Section 617.4 of this part, period, close quote. I don't envy you, Dave.
Do I have a motion on said amendment?
I do. Yeah. Second.
Voting, Councilmember Postoli.
Yes.
Councilmember Lester.
Yes.
Councilmember Bendo.
Yes.
Vice President Treston.
Yes.
President McGinnis.
Yes.
Okay, continue.
Okay, this is a resolution authorizing the city manager to apply for and potentially accept a grant under the New York State Environmental Facilities Corporation, EFC Water Infrastructure Improvement Act for the 1.25 million gallon elevated water storage tank. Grants under the program, they're due September 9th, this Friday, 2022. This resolution is a prerequisite for the filing and must be included with the application. H2M is preparing this on behalf of the city. The grant maximum in this case is 60% of the project amount, not to exceed $5 million. In this case, the estimated cost of the new water tower was $9,240,540. We therefore potentially receive $5 million through the program, leaving the city responsible for $4,240,540. The city portion will be available once funds are borrowed pursuant to bond authorization 3035/19 on September 3rd, 2019. And as Corporation Counsel just mentioned, H2M has completed the SECRA process. They filled out the short environmental assessment form, and this is indeed a type 2 action which has no significant impact. Thank you.
Any questions, Mr. Lester?
Yes. The original quote of 9.24 million was made back in 2019,
That's correct.
and I know things have really changed. Have we gotten an update on that quote?
That quote is certainly lower than what it's probably going to be. I'm waiting for an updated estimate from DeVerk and Bartolucci. They're supposed to be in the final stages of design because it's been going on for quite some time, as you noted. Based on preliminary conversations, it may be in the $10 million range, 10 million plus range, but I don't know that for sure. But based on the increase in prices in steel, it could be more. Then we'd have to, once I get the new estimate and we potentially get a bid, then we have to have a discussion if we need more funding. We're not there yet, but we're getting closer.
Thanks, pal.
Sorry. I don't like to bring bad news, but unfortunately the markets right now, especially for steel, are quite high.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Bendo, do you have a question?
Yeah. The way this is worded, I'm just looking for some clarity on what we're actually authorizing, because on the bottom of I guess it's the first page of the resolution. It does have a resolved clause that says, I'm sorry, the next to last resolved clause, it says that the elevated water storage project is hereby approved at a maximum cost. So are we also approving not only applying for and getting the grant, but commencing work on the actual project?
No, we're not commencing. This isn't authorizing commencing work on the actual water tower. There'll be a separate bid document that's going to be prepared and we're going to advertise in accordance with the city's
Right.
procurement policy, and then we will we'll receive bids. Again, they're anticipated to be higher than the 9 million that we have here. It's probably going to be 10 to 11 million, and then we will have a meeting in the future, probably in the next year or so, to potentially award this if we can figure out the funding. So no, it's not. This isn't saying executing any contract to go into anything to go into contract with a proposed vendor or contractor.
And,
This is just to apply for and accept the grant.
and when we get a more up-to-date quote, since we didn't authorize borrowing for what, if we don't get the grant, we didn't authorize borrowing enough potentially to do the project, we're going to have to figure out how to make up that difference?
Right now, approximately 8.5 million is authorized but not borrowed for the project. 8 million? Is it 8 million? Okay. And I apologize. So 8 million is authorized. 500,000 is borrowed for, and 500,000 is spent. So right now we have 8 million that we would have to have, you'd have to go to market, right? For the 8 million. We haven't done that yet, which is good because you don't want to borrow money and pay interest on it.
Right,
So
we don't need
that's,
to pay interest on money we don't need yet.
exactly, that's correct. So we may have to, in February, when we go to market, if things are going well, we may have to borrow that money at that point.
Okay.
Any questions from the public on this item? Yes, Ms. Lake?
Good evening.
Good evening.
My question is regarding the water tank. My question is regarding the water tank replacement, removal, relocation, whatever the case may be. If the structure is rebuilt in the same location and there is debt, the city currently owns that property, if I'm correct. And if it is sold, then the new owner would obtain the debt at that point in time, if that particular land was sold with the new storage tank, as compared to the potential relocation to the sewage treatment plant, the consolidated, the pump station, which the property would still be the city's, if I'm correct. I'm asking this because I'm trying to see if the tank is still on, the new tank is still on the city's land, and it is purchased for any type of redevelopment, then the new owner, would the new owner assume the debt, if there is debt?
Okay.
So the difference, what you're referring to is, with the sewage plant, we're talking about shutting that down and just turning it into a pumping station, which, I know what you're getting at. What I'm comparing the two. The sewage plant, because it'll be shut down and decommissioned, that land theoretically could be redeveloped. The water plant's not getting shut down, unless you don't want water, but the water plant is not getting shut down. So that's going to stay city property because we have to have a water treatment plant.
Once the pumping station becomes available, it frees up approximately 4 to 6 acres of land. And that would create the potential for the water tower to be relocated there, to that location, since the acreage would be available. So that's why I'm asking if the water tower, the tank, would be relocated, then it would still be on city's property, and we would have the debt. If the replacement or the new water tank remained in the same location, and it is sold for future redevelopment, then potentially the new owner could assume the debt.
That is an interesting question, Ms. Lake. The implications of that is when we get money from the state or when we bond for money, there are strings attached to that. So as a general idea, there may be a catch there where we can't sell our debt or we're supposed to use that money for a particular purpose. I don't know the exact answer to your question, but I think I know what you're getting at. But there are strings to government money, so we have to be mindful of those strings when we plan the future.
Okay, so in that event, if that area is sold for development purposes or whatever the case may be, maybe the total amount of the debt would be included in some form or fashion in the sale price. That's what, I'm just trying to balance this out. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from the public? Seeing none?
Okay, item 4 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to apply for and accept, if awarded, a New York State Environmental Facilities Cooperation Water Infrastructure Improvement Act grant for the replacement of well number 16.
Okay, similar to the previous grant, this is authorizing the city manager to apply for and potentially accept a grant under the New York State Environmental Facilities Corporation for the replacement of well number 16. Grants for the program are due on September 9th, just like the other one. This resolution is a prerequisite, just like the other one as well. It must be included with the application. H2M, like the other one, is preparing this on behalf of the city. The grant maximum in this case is 60% of the project amount, not to exceed $5 million. So in this case, the estimated cost was $4 million. We would therefore potentially receive 60% of $44 million or $2.4 million, leaving the city responsible for $1.6 million, which has already been borrowed in the capital budget via bond authorization 3053-21, dated July 6, 2021. And as we discussed before, H2M has completed the CEQA process. It's been determined that's a type 2 action. They filled out the short environmental form as required. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions from the council? Mr. Bendo?
Joe, the third, I don't know if you have the resolution in front of you. The third whereas clause says the city intends to install a new well and well house in the immediate vicinity of well 16 at a maximum total project cost of $5 million, which will be designated well 16A. But then the rest of the resolution keeps referring to the maximum cost of $4 million. Is that a typo?
No, it's not a typo. It just, the $5 million is just referring to the maximum amount that could be awarded under the program, which obviously we wouldn't need because we don't need $5 million. We only need, we're looking for 60% of $4 million is really what we're asking for here. I don't know if that's not clear,
Right,
but
then if that's, it's missing wording that the previous resolution has, that the grant program may provide up to 60% of the project cost up to $5 million. Is that what it should say?
I think that's what it does say.
That's, further along
It's
in the
further,
resolution.
it's down like 3 more, it's down 1, 2, 3, 4, the fifth whereas. It's pretty, I think it's,
Yeah, I see.
I think it's clear to me, and that doesn't necessarily mean it's clear.
One moment, Mr. Commissioner.
I think from a clarifying perspective, I understand Councilman Bendo's point. There is no harm in moving to strike that particular provision because it appears elsewhere in the resolution to avoid any ambiguity. So if anyone has a motion to make, then.
All right, so I'll make a motion to amend in the
Move to
third
strike.
whereas clause to strike at a maximum total project cost of $5 million.
Can I just ask a clarifying? So now, down at the bottom where it says, under resolved, when it says...
Wait, is your question related to this motion?
It is,
Okay,
yes, if
okay.
you hear me out for a minute. Where it says, for the replacement of well number 16 in the amount not to exceed $4 million, is that, because then we're talking about a maximum, we're going to strike that, I know, but should something be done with No? So that's,
So I see your point. What the 5 million in the motion at issue, the 5 million referenced is up to a maximum project cost is what the EFC basically sets as a cap as a maximum project limit. The $4 million limit is what we've set as our project cap. So that particular section is fine,
oh, okay.
or it reflects the intent.
Okay, do we have a second? Okay.
Voting, Councilmember Postoli.
That's fine. Yes.
Councilmember Lester.
Yes.
Councilmember Bendo.
Yes.
Vice President Treston. Yes. President McGinnis.
Yes.
Is there any other questions regarding that item?
Mr. Lester?
Yes. I'm sorry, Joe, you said this is the one that you got the quote for 2.2?
We actually have bids in for 2.2 million, but their estimate was 4 million. So we were kind of placed in the quandary, what do we apply for? So we did put the 4 million.
Yeah.
But if we were awarded this, it would be.
But we already have this money, correct?
We
this-
borrowed 4 million.
Yeah.
We have borrowed and paying interest on 4 million in the capital budget. Our anticipation, I thought we would have been able to award this already, quite honestly, but we have not been able to obtain the permit from the Department of Environmental Conservation. And until I do, I can't award the project.
And now,
So we're ready to move forward.
This is a question for Ina. Ina, if we borrowed the money and we don't need it, does it have to go back, or can we can't use it for something else?
Okay, this is Comptroller Resnick.
Hi, good evening. So it can go, it basically two questions, if it can go back. It can go back if it was not borrowed long-term. So if it's in short-term borrowing, it can go back before it converted to bonds. But the other question was, what can we use it for? So every borrowing that we pursue, everything that's authorized by you, all bond resolutions have the local finance law paragraph next to it. So theoretically, any kind of a purpose that falls under that paragraph, it can be utilized for.
As long as it's water, right?
As long, I don't know what that specific paragraph says. Maybe it says it's green water, so you can only use it on a green water.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mr. Bendo?
Sort of related. Joe, since items 3, 4, and 5 are all related to the water infrastructure grants, just a sort of related question. So, is anything being done for the sand filters, applying for the sand filters?
No, we actually have, we have a grant for the sand filters for $1 million, actually. We have $250,000 in the capital budget, which is the 25% match for the $1 million grant that we have. But this might be a conversation for
It could be
for a
offline,
work session, quite honestly. But that was a legislative appropriation, and we really need to follow up and find out regarding the financing on that, because I haven't seen any paperwork regarding the backup for that. I actually sent some emails tonight inside, within the city to like Ina and so forth, regarding the status of that grant. But we do have the grant. Apparently, we have a grant for $1 million for the sand filters.
Okay.
Totally separate, though.
Any other questions? Ms. Trustin? No? Okay. Any questions from the public? Yes, Ms. Lake?
And just to add, we also have a grant for the open air basins covering for $500,000 as well. That project is probably 90% complete right now, and so 50% of the funding, it's $1 million project, is going to be reimbursed through the grant.
And those two grants were through former Senator Todd Kimmons.
Yeah, quite honestly, I'm not as
State
familiar
Senator.
with those legislative
Right.
grants, and we're trying to dot our i's and cross our t's with them.
Right.
But we do have grants for both.
Thank you. Okay, Ms. Lake?
Crystal Lake, good evening again, Long Beach. Where is well 16 located? Where is well 16?
I think it's off. Crystal, I think it's
Thank you.
So the question was, where is well 16 located?
Yes, thank you.
Well number 16 is located at 750 Park Place, and it's essentially northeast or northwest of the water treatment plant. It's on the site of the water treatment plant. And we're going to be building 16A immediately, probably like 100 feet to the east of it, on the same site. So it's going to be on the same property as the water treatment plant.
Okay, the water treatment.
It's going to be on the same property.
Okay, as well as the, what is the well house?
The well and well house will be on the same property as existing well 16. It's probably about 100 feet away, on the same property though. On the same property.
How large is the structure?
They're not very big. If you go down on Park Avenue, well number 15 is in the center mall between Pacific Boulevard and Roosevelt. It's a little square building, no more than like 20 by 20 maybe. There's also another one by the Bagel Club on Pacific Boulevard between Chester and Park Avenue. Again, they're brick buildings, usually 20 by 20. They're not really they're not imposing in any way, shape, or form.
Currently, well 16 is not working.
Well service is collapsed, out of service, and it's going to be abandoned.
So,
Building knocked down.
so the audience could hear, well 16 is currently not working.
Yeah, well 16 is abandoned. It's going to be, the building's going to be demolished, and it's already taken out of service.
Okay.
It's no longer in operation.
So what source would water be coming to compensate?
Well, luckily, we have other
Joe,
production.
can you repeat the question? Because
I think she wanted, Ms. Lake wanted to know where are we getting our water if well number 16 is out of service. We actually have 7 other production wells throughout the city. One I just mentioned, well number 15, which is on Park between Maple and Pacific. We have well number 11, which is by the Bagel Club on Pacific Boulevard. So they're dispersed throughout the city. Well number 13 is on the same site of the water treatment plant. We have well number 9.
Is there a well also by the old incinerator site? I thought I saw it on
There is a well 13 is right next to where we're putting the new water tower, and right next to the standpipe. Not standpipe, the elevated storage tank.
Okay, thank you so
Yeah,
much.
you're welcome. No problem.
Thank you, Ms. Lake. Any other questions from the public on this item? Seeing none?
Item 5 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to apply for and accept, if awarded, a New York State Environmental Facilities Cooperation Water Infrastructure Improvement Act grant for the Walks utility upgrades.
Okay, similar to the first two, this is another resolution authorizing the city manager to apply for and potentially accept a grant under the New York State Environmental Facilities Corporation Water Infrastructure Improvement Act for the Walks Water System Improvement Project. Grants under the program are due September 9th. This resolution is a prerequisite for the filing and must be included with the application. H2M, again, is preparing the grant on behalf of the city. The grant maximum is 60% of the project, not to exceed $5 million. In this case, the estimated cost of Phase 1, which is the area between Park to Beach, as well as between New York and Grand, is approximately $1,075,000. We therefore potentially receive 60% of that number, or $645,000, leaving the city responsible for $430,000, or 40%. The source of the city share is going to be derived from bond authorization number 3036/19, dated September 3rd. Again, this money has been authorized and borrowed previously, and similar to the other two, H2M has completed the secret process and determined that this is a Type 2 action, and it's therefore no significant impact. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions from the council? Any questions from the public on this item? Mr. Delory?
Good evening, members of the City Council. Mike Delory, Long Beach. A couple of years ago, there was a design stage phase for this plan. Question, is the design completed and paid for, or that's question number one, Joe?
Yeah, phase one is paid for and completed. It's going to be submitted to the health department probably within a month or so. But it's pretty much ready to be publicly bid.
The second question is, there was a question a couple of years ago that had to do with not water but lighting. Would that be part of this process?
Yeah, those are great points that you bring up. There was actually 4 components to the project. One was to address the water system in the walks. One was to potentially address the sanitary sewer system in the walks. One was to address the drainage in the walks. And then one was to do the lighting. Under this phase, what we're going to do is, not only are we going to be replacing the water mains and services down the walks, but when we actually rip up the walk, the sidewalk portion of the walk, we're going to be putting down permeable pavers. So we're going to be putting down brick pavers over gravel down the walk. So we're going to, with this project, we're going to meet 2 of the components of the original plan, so to speak, with the only 2 remaining after that being the sewer and the lighting. The lighting, I envision doing at a later date, quite honestly, because it's not as complicated. If we're not going to change the wires, which we probably should change, it'll just mean swapping out the poles with a new foundation and a new colonial light, essentially. So that would be, I think, a later phase. And the sewer, right now the sewer and the water are behind the houses in the same trench. Well, those water mains are going to be abandoned. And again, we envision for the sewer component to do some sort of, it's called pipe bursting or lining. And we actually, I think I mentioned to the council, it's finally successfully completed a section of lining, and I have great photos that I could share with you. It came out really good. It looks as good as new. And it's probably like 1/4 of the cost to do the lining. They did a great job. Does that answer your question? Okay, great.
Just for full disclosure, I do live in the walks. I was part of this conversation many years ago when the West Holman Walks were meeting regularly, and members had asked me if I would ask and advise. So I've asked, Joe advised, and I thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike. I appreciate those comments. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Hodge?
James Hodge, 95 East Fulton Street, here in our great city. I would just like to stand and say, you know, any funds that's given, I know we heard that a few have been approved, and heard that the walks have been meeting and coming up with plans for years, but I'm not exactly sure all of the funding or the phases went through. So a lot of that work has been completed or done as of yet. When I was working for the water department, I got a chance to do a lot of work in the walks. And when I was younger, at Ms. Chanowski's house and also Mr. Peter Lucas' house, I got a lot of great meals in the walks. So I stand and rise just to say that whatever funds are allocated, because sometimes, and we're hearing it tonight, that some funds are not used, and then we put it to other things if it's approved, and Ina is doing a good job, and the city manager is telling you what you can move it to and do this and do that if you don't use it on what it was allocated for. So I hope the walks money that we seek out for the walks, unlike some other grants, get used on the walks from New York to Grand, every bit of the walks, every corner, through every drain or pipe or whatever it is. So I'm just rising to say, please let the walks funds go to the walks.
Okay.
And whatever funds supposed to go other places, let it go there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hodge. Any other questions from the public? Seeing none?
Item 6 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to accept a donation from Anthony Rector of Refinements Limited.
This is a resolution accepting a donation from Anthony Rector, owner of Refinements Ltd., equivalent to $10,000 to provide labor and material to build a decorative planter at the North Street end at Connecticut Avenue. He'll also be providing and installing indigenous plants in the planter. As you all may be aware, we installed a new bulkhead. It was installed in front of the old bulkhead at the base flood elevation, which was elevation 10. So it's providing additional protection, but unfortunately from the street side, it's quite aesthetically unpleasing. So Mr. Richter had approached me, and he came up with a suggestion to essentially put a 3x12 member across the top and then face it with like a hardy board material and put indigenous plants to make it more aesthetically pleasing. And I think it's a great idea. It's going to be, I'm hoping it could be a template for all the street ends down there, because we have the same problem on every street end. We built this new bulkhead in front of the old bulkhead. It's higher. It kind of created almost like a step up. And then it's funny, the first thing when Anthony and I spoke about this, he said, Joe, you're not thinking about putting a fence in that area, right? And I said, oh my God, Anthony, that's exactly what I was thinking. And he was like, no, please, no fence, no fence. We can do better. We could do better. So again, he wants to make this generous donation. Anthony is active in the community. He does fantastic work. I'm sure everybody's seen some of his projects. And he's also on our CRS committee, and he volunteers for that. And we appreciate him for that. And I recommend that we accept the donation. And Anthony, if you'd like to say anything.
Thank you. Evening, Council. Anthony Rector, 115 Connecticut Avenue. I have color renderings, if it's helpful. I have 6 sets. I don't want to waste your time if you've already decided one way or another, but I can show you what we're talking about. Thank you, Joe. To know me is to know that I love this town, and I love beautiful things. I love my family home, and the bulkhead adjacent to it could use some improvements. And this is the concept I've come up with, and it's flood and fireproof, virtually indestructible. I figure we'll plant it with indigenous plants like junipers and things that don't need massive amount of watering. And I really think it could serve as a prototype for the other north ends. Our southern ends of our streets, especially in the West End, are beautiful and landscaped. Why not our north end? So that's why I would like to make this donation.
Any questions from the council?
Just one. Is that a Whitehall skiff that you're using?
Exactly. I'm impressed. A 14-footer. She was damaged in Sandy.
That's sacrilegious.
Her port side was damaged, so now she's a half hull, ready to adorn the community. Yes, it is a Whitehall. Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Bendo?
I guess this is a question for Joe. Once the project's complete, even though it'll be low maintenance, there will be some maintenance. Who would take care of that?
I'm sorry, I've volunteered for 10 years or as long as I live.
Okay.
Hopefully longer.
Any other questions from the council? Any questions from the public on this item? Mr. Hodge?
One, I just wanted to very quickly, James Hodge, 95 East Fulton Street in our great city. I wanted to stand and just applaud this realtor, this businessman and resident of Long Beach. As a person that was the president and chairperson of a non-for-profit for many years, I'm not on the board anymore, but I've been on many boards. And one of the things I had to do is raise hundreds of thousands of dollars with groups of people. It should always be highlighted when people that don't have to do and don't do to be seen, but it's great to be seen given, should be highlighted. Now, if somebody in the city had to take care and do a little maintenance, well, we'd like to thank this man for giving $10,000 out of the kindness of his heart to help beautify our wonderful city, which is 35,000 and it swells in the summer. So as a resident and a taxpayer, and I know I don't have 10,000 to just give like that, I want to come and thank you. Thank you for giving to our city to help our city look amazing. I appreciate it. You don't do it for the accolades and all the applause. You do it out of the kindness of your heart, and I know you, and you've given back many, many times. And I just wanted to thank you publicly and your company. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for the time.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from the public on this item? Okay. Seeing none?
Item 7 is a resolution authorizing the continued retention of the Bondino Group as independent auditors for the fiscal years ending June 30th, 2022, 23, and 24.
Mr. Barrios? She's going to do the amendments?
Good evening.
One moment.
One second. Sorry, I have a whole page of amendments. We're recommending an amendment on item number 7. The amendment is as follows. Amend the final resolve paragraph, second to last line as follows. Quote, at a cost of... I'm sorry. I'll do that one first. At a cost of $118,000 for FY 2022, close quote, and amend the last whereas clause to reflect that same amount, $118,000.
I move. Do we have a second?
Voting, Councilmember Apostoli.
Yes.
Councilmember Lester.
Yes.
Councilmember Bendo.
Yes.
Vice President Treston.
Yes.
President McGinnis.
Yes. Okay. Controller Resnick?
Sure. Good evening again. So this item is to approve Benadia as our auditors. Audits are necessary evils. We have to have them because we have to go and borrow money for our capital improvements. That requires audited financial statements. In order to receive any grants, federal or state, we need to have audited financial statements. And obviously, for the comfort of the residents, we have to have audited financial statements. So you will know that the numbers we're reporting are accurate, and that's why we spend over $100,000 a year on this services. So in September of 2019, city issued a request for proposals for the audit services. We received about 4 or 5 different proposals. We had a selection committee, and Benadia came in as a finalist because they were both from the cost perspective and from the technical perspective way ahead of the competition. So we had a contract for 3 years. That contract did not have any renewal clauses, and therefore we need to do this again.
Okay. Any questions from the council? Mr. Bendo?
So the LDC certificate of incorporation has multiple clauses in it which specifically say we can't be paying their bills. So how can we authorize paying for their audit if they're basically their certificate of incorporation specifically says the city can't pay their bills?
Okay, I can try to answer it. So I think that's kind of a bad planning on the LDC part, because at some point they don't have any sources of revenue, right, other than grants that they had received and passed through to the city. So at some point when they were passing through these revenues, someone should have thought, well, we might need to retain some of the money for the operations of the LDC, because every year there are legal expenses at a minimum at a minimum. There are legal expenses and there are also audit expenses. And there is also an expense of the city employees working on an LDC stuff, right? So I spend some time on it. I have staff in my office who reconcile their bank accounts, even though there is no activity and minimal time, but nevertheless, there is some time. So now we as a city have to have LDC financial statements audited in order to have them incorporated in our audited financial statements. And that, I think, takes precedence over the certificate of incorporation of LDC. They might be in, and they are probably, are in violation of their own articles, but nevertheless, unless they can come up with some money soon, we have to pay for it because we need to have LDC's audited financial statements incorporated into ours. They are a blended component unit, and there are multiple GASBs that require that. GASBs are Governmental Accounting Standard Board provisions that identify LDC as a special purpose corporation that was created for the benefit of the city, and therefore they constitute the part of the city, and we cannot not have them incorporated. And frankly, it makes the whole picture of the city and LDC more transparent, right? So those financial statements show that LDC didn't receive any grants, and therefore the city had to substitute it, subsidize it. There are a couple of ways we can do that. We can either show a receivable from the LDC as if we are advancing money to them, and then write it off at the end. So basically postponing the inevitable.
Controller, do you have another question?
Well, I guess the problem I'm having with this is for over 4 years now, the LDC, when they wanted to do something, was not part of the city, was an independent body, and did whatever they wanted. But when they screwed up or needed money, suddenly they were part of the city, and we had to pay their bills. So there's never been a straight story on this LDC. And yet, it continues to exist. We continue to pay its bills, and we get nothing from it.
Well, what I can say is what has happened in the past, we, meaning Ina and I, and the staff, have no control over that. What we do have control over is that according to GASB and according to our auditors, which held up the last audit, is that the corporation, the nonprofit corporation, was in fact set up as a benefit for the city. So what we've asked and what they've decided to do is to dissolve the corporation, and we're going to go through those steps. They didn't stay on top of their bylaws. They didn't stay on top of anything in the past, and I'm not going to dispute, because I'm not sure, like, as you say, they didn't do anything as far as bringing in additional funds. But the accounting ruling says that it has to be within our audit. So if we don't pay for it, then we won't get our audit. And that's what happened this past year. It's unfortunate that they have not brought in any money or have done anything else, and the city has had to pay for it. And
so why can't we make paying for their audit contingent on them starting the process to dissolve themselves?
they've already started the process. They voted to dissolve themselves. 2 years of this contract, that audit, we're already in those audits, because their fiscal year ends in December, our fiscal year ends in June. And what we agreed is that we're trying to have them closed before and off the books and everything before year 3 that is required for the city to pay for. And I would not accrue the money as a receivable because it's money that we will never get.
So are you saying in both of your professional opinions, you advise that we get these audits done?
Yes.
Yeah, we don't have a choice. It's not a preference. It's
Even if we
really-
don't like it?
Nobody likes it. Yeah, we don't like it either.
Okay.
We don't like audits altogether. I would rather not have an audit of the city. It's a painful process, but we have to have it.
Any other questions from the council? Any questions from the public on this item? Seeing none?
Item 8 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to purchase one 2021 Ford Police Interceptor utility hybrid all-wheel drive base vehicle for the city's police department and to amend the budget.
Mr. Barrios will speak first on this item.
This is my final amendment for the night, I hope. Sorry, Dave.
It's okay.
So the requested amendment on the floor, the recommended amendment on the floor is to amend the final resolved paragraph, the second and third last line to state as follows, quote, and funds in the amount of $14,404.20 for the balance of the cost of the above referenced vehicle will be available in account A3120.52230 after the following budget amendment is hereby authorized, close quote.
I move. Do we have a second?
Voting, Councilmember Postoli.
I'm sorry, one second. Just a point of clarification. Does that, though, wouldn't that necessarily, if the funds are available in one account and we're moving that, wouldn't that have to be changed on the bottom?
No. So the clarification in that resolved paragraph is to just simply reflect, we are depositing the amount it says we're depositing in the account, but this 14,404.20 represents the difference to purchase the actual vehicle, meaning that difference would be available for purchase.
Roy, I totally get your point. So if you look at the number at the bottom where it says increase appropriations, the second set of numbers there,
Yes.
so the amendment is changing in the text of the resolution to match that number.
But the numbers here, increased revenue is the 13,000.
That's because
There's money already in the account, in that line item. So
Okay,
once
so
they transfer the $13,063.24, the balance
Okay.
that we would need would only be $14,000. Yeah.
Okay, so that's
Yeah.
one. All right, thanks.
Councilmember Postoli.
Yes.
Councilmember Lester.
Yes.
Councilmember Bendo.
Yes.
Vice President Treston. Yes. President McGinnis.
Yes. Commissioner Walsh?
Good evening, everybody. So this item, as is written, is to purchase a 2021 Ford Police Interceptor. You'll recall last year, one of our officers was sitting at a red light in a car traveling eastbound on Park Avenue at a very high rate of speed, lost control of itself, came across all of Park Avenue, hit this officer's car head on, landed in a tree. It was, I think it was on a November night. The officer wound up being hurt for about 8 months, was out, came back just this summer. We were hoping that car could be fixed. It could not. It was totaled. We fought with the insurance company to get the $13,000 that we did get, $13,000 and change. And we're trying to replace that vehicle. There are no 2022 Ford Explorers available. The 2022 is also a little bit more expensive than the 21. There is one 2021 that we're able to secure through a vendor that is left over, brand new car. We're happy getting it. It's also a hybrid, which is something that we want to try in our fleet to see if we can start moving towards hybrid vehicles. Number one, to reduce gas costs and greenhouse gases as well, trying to move the city in that direction a little bit, but we've not had a hybrid as a patrol vehicle or as a police department vehicle yet. So this will be actually the first one of those that we get. That pretty much explains everything about it, unless you have any further questions.
Any questions, Mr. Bendo?
Can our garage maintain a hybrid vehicle?
Yep, we have hybrid vehicles in the city.
Okay.
We just don't have them in the PD, other than we have one hybrid car that we got as an asset forfeiture that they're already maintaining, but that's a special vehicle. We don't really use it for police officers. This one will wind up being an executive car to start moving cars down the line a little bit to start replacing some of them. It will, we're anticipating a learning experience with it to see how it does. It will be interesting. Some departments do use them, we never have.
Mr. Lester?
Yes. Did we collect anything from the driver?
This is from the driver's insurance company.
But we didn't sue the driver for the balance?
The city wouldn't, as far as I know, doesn't sue for that type of stuff.
It's covered by the insurance.
Driver? However, I think the police officer has a lawsuit out for his injuries against the driver, I believe.
Okay.
Any questions from the public on this item? Seeing none?
Item 9 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into a software license and maintenance agreement for the records management system for the city's police department.
Commissioner?
So this is another item for the police department. This is our impact system. It says here that it's called Central Square. So impact is the actual system that we use for all of our arrests, our case reports. It's actually tied to our computer-aided dispatch as well. It was only brought here in 2017. Impact was originally owned by Impact themselves. They then were sold to a company called, I'm going to mess this up, but it's ZVERECHER. I don't know how to say that. Technologies. And that company then sold to Central Square. Central Square is a very large company. There's no negotiating with them. So they tell us what the increase is going to be if you want to stay on their system. If you don't want to stay on their system, we don't have a records management system. It would not be maintained. The contract before this, so you understand, we had negotiated a 0% increase. They honored that for 3 years. After their 3-year contract was up, these are now the terms that they have. The 5% increase every year. I'm not happy about it. We have to maintain this. I am looking into changing our records management system. I don't love Impact. I don't think any of the officers down there love it either. I am looking at now what's called P1 with Motorola. It would be piggybacking off of a system that Nassau County has. They maintain the system, and we would get it for free. So I'm hoping within a year or so we'll be able to completely eliminate this cost. However, I can't do that now. There's too many changes going on downstairs in the police department between closed-circuit television, the potential for redoing the desk. We're bringing in a new software and handhelds for our ticket writings. There's a lot of changes that have been taking place. I can't throw in changing an entirely new record management system and officers not knowing how to process an arrest or answer a call for service right now. So, and it would be a lot of training. But it is something on my radar. And it is something that I am looking into, so something that I inherited.
Okay. Any questions? Mr. Lester?
Yes. Commissioner, you said that the county has a program like this, and we could use that program and it would be basically free.
Right. So it's not an easy process to do, but yes. So just so you understand how that works, I would call them, they'd set us up as an agency. You have to train every single officer in every single module, and that takes time. But more than that, configuring the agency to actually work is a tremendous undertaking. You have to do a lot of mapping and alignment of actual processes with the way the system works and how things move throughout the system. So we're working on that part. It does have some features that I like a lot better. I also want to make sure that we don't lose our data. In other words, I want to have full access to all of the data for all of our arrests, for things so we can run our reports, we get our stats. And I have to make sure that the county is willing to give us full access to that as well. It's a process, but yes, it would be cost-free once we got on. It would cost us money to train everybody and time and energy to get it done.
Okay, and the county, my understanding is that they've offered this for a couple of years now, 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, I was the one who actually bid that project when I was there. I created it and I made sure that all the villages and cities could get it for free when I was there. As part of the headquarters.
And could we have both systems at the same time, so
You
that
can't
we
run
can-
two record management systems because you run the risk of duplicating arrests, duplicating case reports, your stats become a mess, you have to report to the federal government as well as the state government to do all of your UCR and your NISBN reports. So you really can't run two systems. It's one or the other. We would need an entire technology team to handle that if we tried to do that, because I had to do that for a short period of time in the county, and it was a bear. It required hirings, and it was a lot of work.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Any questions from the public on this item? Seeing none?
Item 10 is a resolution authorizing amendments to the Urban Development Fund budget years 21, 22, and 23.
That's Monique Powell.
Good evening. So this is the 3 urban development funds from 2021 all the way up to 2023. Is that good? Okay. So the first one is just to apply it to supplies and materials for the fire bunker gear. The goal of this is to use the funds to supplement community development funds to build sustainability as we develop the community. So for the 2021 budget year, it is to purchase the fire. The next one for the 2022 is to purchase community development vans. These vans will, keep going. Yep. These vans will provide transportation to the community in need for some of our programs around the whole city. We have the youth programs, the senior programs, the adult and families. We spent a lot of money over the summer for transportation with our camps, so this will help absorb some of that cost of renting out school buses and using transportations. The other amount is to continue to buy supplies for power washers to clean the community and local parks as we move post-COVID. And the final 2023 year is for salaries and some contracted services, which is continuing to provide services to the community.
And Mr. Lester, do you have any questions?
Yeah, Monique, could you just tell us what urban development rental income is?
So this kind of predates me, but the income is from the Stop and Shop rental income that is here, and that is used to assist with developing the community. So that is the rental income from the Stop and Shop.
So, and that
Center.
doesn't go up each year? That's a set amount?
Sorry, it's the same settle amount, yes.
For how many years is that the same amount, do you know?
That I don't know. I believe it's
That's
about,
a 99-year lease or something?
yeah.
It escalated in the initial years of it, so the first 10 years or so, and then it's been locked in there, and it will remain locked in there for the remainder.
For the 99?
So it's, for the first 10 was an escalator, and then the remaining 90 will be flat.
Great.
So a lot of research has been done on this, on these funds. And what we have found is that the Urban Development Fund has to be done in conjunction with CDBG. It has to serve the exact same community that CDBG. So for example, where we have the bunker gear, we put bunker gear in the CDBG grant this year. They didn't fund all of it, but they did fund some. That's why you see bunker gear here. We talked to them about, during COVID, to get power washers to clean those parks. They didn't fund it, however, it was an eligible expense. We couldn't use that money. So all of the urban development fund money that we receive supplements any other projects that need to be done in any CDBG area. There's 2 separate grants.
Yeah, no, I'm just looking at the rental.
Yeah.
The rental for 99 years at
Yeah.
a fixed amount.
Yes.
Great contract.
I didn't see any backup on this in our backup decks, and so I moved to table this item to wait for a work session so that we can have a greater understanding of the entire process.
I'll second that. That was a motion?
Yes.
I'll second it.
Motion to table. Councilmember Postoli.
Yes.
Councilmember Lester.
Yes.
Councilmember Bendo.
Yes.
Vice President Treston. President McGinnis.
Yes.
Item has been tabled. Item 11 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to approve a purchase order for the rental of various amusement rides for the City of Long Beach's 24th Annual Fall Festival Centennial Celebration.
Good evening. As noted earlier, we are moving forward with the Fall Festival this year. The Procurement Department, late in spring, put out solicitations for quotes to handle the rides. We're talking Ferris wheel, the carnival, swing ride, giant slide, that sort of stuff. One bid did come back at $38,372. We do have the revenue for that in the contracted services line of celebrations, and we're requesting a vote in the affirmative tonight. Questions?
Any questions?
Just one quick one. Is there any efforts underway to get sponsorships to cover any of this?
So this one is actually, historically, the city has lost, all in, the city has lost anything on the order of $20,000 to $30,000 a year on Fall Festival. These rides are actually one of the money makers. It's the staffing of city employees that is really the portion of this that the city doesn't have a revenue stream for. We have sponsorships in the past have averaged somewhere near between 10, 20,000 on a really good year. We reimagined what that sponsorship package program should look like. It's much more ambitious this go around, so we are hopeful in the early returns and the early conversations we're having, we will actually be able to make up the difference, so the Fall Festival actually breaks even this year for the city.
John, can you explain that? I did not realize these rides were money makers.
They are. So, I mean, there's different components of all of the Fall Festival. These rides, we charge tickets for. So it is historically, and we bumped the price of that. So 10 tickets were $25. They will be $30 this year. There's a package if you want to do 2-day pass. That number is, I think, $40 or $50 or something along those lines. But this is actually, if you are just looking at what it costs for these carnival rides, what the city gets for those tickets, the city actually makes money on that element of it. But staffing the rest of Fall Festival greatly outweighs whatever those revenues were.
Uh-huh. All right, I never knew that we made money on it.
On this particular element of it, yes. On the festival as a whole, we have lost.
Okay.
Any questions from the council? Any questions from the public on this item? Yes? State your name and address.
Henrietta Staff, Long Beach. I really don't have a question, but I wanted to commend the Fall Festival. I've gone there many years, several years with my grandkids, and they just have a wonderful, wonderful time. And though the city loses a little bit of money, it's well worth the public relations you get from all the people that come. So I wanted to thank you for doing such a great job with that.
On behalf of the city, appreciate it. I've had nothing to do with it. This will be my first one around, so cheers to everybody prior.
Okay. Any other comments from the public? Seeing none?
Item 12 is a resolution authorizing payment for the Alpine software system for the Long Beach Fire Department.
Commissioner Miller.
Good evening, Joe Miller, Fire Commissioner. The City of Long Beach and the Fire Department have been in contract with the Alpine Software Corporation for over 20 years. Alpine Software is the sole source as proprietary software vendor for the City of Long Beach and the Fire Department, and provides an electronic system of record keeping, inventory, personnel records, computer-aided dispatching, reports, MDTs, and redundant backup for alerting Fire Department members using app-based programs. Due to the current economic situation, the cost of operating the system has increased beyond our internal limit to pay the existing contract without receiving council approval. Funding for this necessary payment is currently available in the Fire Department budget account for contracted services. I request that the council authorizes payment for our needed computer dispatching system.
Any questions from the council? Any questions from the public on this item? Seeing none?
Item 13 is a resolution adopting a donation policy for the city of Long Beach.
Good evening again. There are no amendments on the floor for this one. So, as the resolution indicates, before the City Council is a draft donation policy. In the wake, I guess since I've started being involved more, I guess, on the day-to-day council operations here, we've been receiving more and more donations, which I think is a great thing, or at least I've noticed more donations. So we all thought it good to have a formal policy setting forth donations moving forward. So it's a multi-page document with some appendices therein that sets forth just a practice and procedure for accepting donations by the city.
Okay. Any questions from the council? Mr. Bendo?
I guess just, this is a good lawyer question, I guess. So under the definitions of donation, it says basically the donor shouldn't expect any significant recognition. And then we have another section that basically describes what recognition the donor gets. So I guess, is there a sweet spot in there somewhere of?
So you're comparing the definition to the donation procedures?
Yeah, in effect. Well, right. So under donation procedure where it talks about the donor recognition.
Okay, so the general gist is the definition is important, right? Because a donation in itself does not create a binding contract. A donation is a gift or a bequest by definition. So the donation must be given without expectation of anything in return, otherwise it's no longer a donation, and then the person looking for a tax write-off might have a problem when they talk to the IRS. So the appropriate recognition in that next paragraph or that next page references the natural reality of things where we like to thank people for giving us things and nice things. So the appropriate recognition will be given. So if it's a small donation, thank you very much. If it's a magnificent giant donation, maybe there's a bit more thanks from the council or maybe even from the public. So appropriate recognition is more of like it's a sliding scale, I guess.
Right, but would that cover things like plaques, signs, naming?
So the difference in that would be sponsorships and naming rights, right? So that's why this is distinctly for donations only. A pure donation without any expectation is a donation.
Okay.
If you want me to place your name on a building, that is not a donation. That is a bargain for exchange where probably a contract needs to be in place and some terms will need to be hammered out.
And then I guess just one other thing in Section 4, subsection 5, it talks about city officials and council members responsible for reporting their fundraising activities. And I get it, it's because you don't want to be perceived as soliciting, I guess, donations on behalf of the city. But that being said, would that be any different than the normal annual disclosure form?
So this is a clarifying point, just as a general point of public policy. The city itself is not allowed to fundraise. We cannot go out and say, we need money for this. Please give us money. That's actually contrary to public policy. So to the extent you have fundraising activities that might fall under your financial disclosure, that's where the pocket would be for the council. There's no expectation that individual council members are going door to door asking for money for this program or that program.
Well, we might send Roy.
Okay. Any other questions from the council? Any questions from the public on this item? Seeing none?
Okay. Item 14 is a resolution authorizing publication of a notice of public hearing and of application, to waive off-street parking requirements for premise 60 West Park Avenue, second floor for an escape room. This item is for publication only. A hearing will be held on September 20th at 7 p.m. Item 15 is a resolution authorizing publication of a notice of public hearing of an application to waive off-street parking requirements for premise 220 West Park Avenue, street floor for a coffee shop with golf simulator. This item is for publication only. A hearing will be held September 20th at 7 p.m. Item 16 is a resolution authorizing publication for hearing of an ordinance to amend the Code of Ordinances of the City of Long Beach regarding motor vehicles and traffic. This item is for publication only. A hearing will be held September 20th at 7 p.m. Item 17 is a resolution authorizing publication of hearing of an ordinance to amend the Code of Ordinances of the City of Long Beach regarding automatic alarm systems. This item is for publication only. A hearing will be held September 20th at 7 p.m. Item 18 is approval of minutes for prior meeting, July 19th, 2022. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
I will.
Voting, Councilmember Postoli.
Yes.
Councilmember Lester.
Yes.
Councilmember Bendo.
Yes.
Vice President Treston.
Yes.
President McGinnis.
Yes.
And item 19 has been added by unanimous consent. Item 19 is a resolution authorizing publication for hearing of a local law amending the charter of the City of Long Beach regarding zoning board of appeals. This item is for publication only. A hearing will be held September 20th at 7 p.m. On to the voting portion. Get to the right page. Okay. Start with item 2 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to amend the current agreement for engineering services to prepare a saltwater intrusion study. Would you just move the adoption of this item?
I will.
Second?
I will.
Voting, Councilmember Postoli.
Yes.
Councilmember Lester.
Yes.
Councilmember Bendo.
Yes.
Vice President Treston.
Yes.
President McGinnis.
Yes.
One second. Okay, item 3 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to apply for and accept, if awarded, a New York State Environmental Facilities Cooperation Water Infrastructure Improvement Act grant for the 1.25 million gallon elevated water storage tank project for the maximum cost of $9,240,540. Who would introduce and move the adoption of this item as amended?
I will. Okay.
Okay. Voting, Councilmember Postoli.
Yes.
Councilmember Lester.
Yes.
Councilmember Bendo.
Yes.
Vice President Treston.
Yes.
President McGinnis.
Yes.
Item 4 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to apply for and accept, if awarded, a New York State Environmental Facilities Cooperation Water Infrastructure Improvement Act grant for the replacement of well number 16. Introduce and move the adoption of this item.
I will.
Second?
I will.
Voting, Councilmember Postoli.
Yes.
Councilmember Lester.
Yes.
Councilmember Bendo.
Yes.
Vice President Treston.
Yes.
President McGinnis.
Yes.
Item 5 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to apply for and accept, if awarded, a New York State Environmental Facilities Cooperation Water Infrastructure Improvement Act grant for the Walks utility upgrades. Who would just move the adoption of this item as amended?
I will.
Second?
I will.
Voting, Councilmember Postoli.
Yes.
Councilmember Lester.
Yes.
Councilmember Bendo.
Yes.
Vice President Treston.
Yes, and thank you again, Commissioner Fabrizio, for all your work.
And President McGinnis.
Yes.
Item 6 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to accept a donation from Anthony Rector of Refinements Limited. Would you just move the adoption of this item?
I will.
Second?
I will.
Voting, Councilmember Postoli.
Thank you, Mr. Rector, and it's a fantastic idea and a great benefit to our community. I vote yes.
Councilmember Lester.
And I also want to say thank you. It's really beautiful, and I really like the color ones too. Thank you. I vote yes.
Yes.
Councilmember Bendo.
And I add my thanks too. Yes.
Vice President Treston.
With gratitude, thank you. Yes.
And President McGinnis.
Thank you, Mr. Rector. Yes.
Item 7 is a resolution authorizing the continued retention of the Bondino Group as independent auditors for the fiscal years ending June 30th, 22, 23, and 24. Introduce and move the adoption of this item as amended.
Mhm.
Who got that?
Liz.
Okay. Second?
I will.
Okay. Voting, Councilmember Postoli.
For the reasons outlined earlier by Councilmember Bendo, I also believe that the LDC should be detached from this process. So for that reason, I'm voting no.
Councilmember Lester.
I'm also voting no for the same reasons. Basically, the charter, the origination papers of the LDC say they're going to handle it themselves, and I don't want to go against that.
Councilmember Bendo.
This is a tough one for me because every time I've been asked to vote on something for the LDC to spend money on them, I'm told it's going to be the last time. We swear on stacks of Bibles. And it just seems like it never is. At some point, you have to say enough is enough, so no.
Vice President Treston. Yes. President McGinnis.
As a member of the Audit Committee, I've seen the work of Bonadio, and based on the professional advice of our controller and our city manager, I vote yes.
Item A is a resolution authorizing the city manager to purchase one 2021 Ford Police Interceptor Utility Hybrid all-wheel drive base vehicle for the city's police department and to amend the budget. Would you just move the adoption of this item as amended?
I will.
Second?
I will.
Voting, Councilmember Postoli.
Yes.
Councilmember Lester.
Yes.
Councilmember Bendo.
Yes.
Vice President Treston. Yes. President McGinnis.
Yes.
Item 9 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into a software license and maintenance agreement for the records management system for the city's police department. Would you introduce and move the adoption of this item?
I will.
Second?
I will.
Excuse me, voting. Councilmember Postoli.
Yes.
Councilmember Lester.
Yes, and I'm very happy to hear that someday we will be getting this for free. Thank you, Commissioner.
Councilmember Bendo.
Yes.
Vice President Treston. Yes. President McGinnis.
Yes.
Item 11 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to approve a purchase order for the rental of various amusement rides for the City of Long Beach 24th Annual Fall Festival Centennial Celebration. Would you just move the adoption of this item?
I will.
Second?
I will.
Voting, Councilmember Postoli.
Yes.
Councilmember Lester.
Yes.
Councilmember Bendo.
Yes.
Vice President Treston. Yes. President McGinnis.
Discretionary events like this should be break even, so I vote no.
Item 12 is a resolution authorizing payment for the Alpine software system for the Long Beach Fire Department. Would you just move the adoption of this item?
I will.
Second?
I will.
Voting, Councilmember Postoli.
Yes.
Councilmember Lester.
Yes.
Councilmember Bendo.
Yes.
Vice President Treston.
Yes.
President McGinnis.
Yes.
Item 13 is a resolution adopting a donation policy for the City of Long Beach. Would you just move the adoption of this item?
I will. Oh, okay. Roy.
Second?
Yeah.
Voting, Councilmember Postoli.
Yes.
Councilmember Lester.
Yes.
Councilmember Bendo.
Yes.
Vice President Treston.
Yes.
President McGinnis.
Yes.
Item 14 is a resolution authorizing publication of a notice, a public hearing of an application to waive off-street parking requirements for premise 60 West Park Avenue, second floor for an escape room. Would you just move the adoption of this item?
I will.
Second? Voting, Councilmember Postoli.
Yes.
Councilmember Lester.
Yes.
Councilmember Bendo.
Yes.
Vice President Treston.
Yes.
President McGinnis.
Yes.
Item 15 is a resolution authorizing publication of a notice of public hearing of an application to waive off-street parking requirements for premise 220 West Park Avenue, street floor for a coffee shop with golf simulator. Would you just move the adoption of this item?
I will.
Second?
I will.
Voting, Councilmember Postoli.
Yes.
Councilmember Lester.
Yes.
Councilmember Bendo.
Yes.
Vice President Treston.
Yes.
President McGinnis.
Yes.
Item 16 is a resolution authorizing publication for hearing of an ordinance to amend the Code of Ordinances of the City of Long Beach regarding motor vehicles and traffic. Would you just move the adoption of this item?
I will.
Second?
I will.
Voting, Councilmember Postoli.
Yes.
Councilmember Lester.
Yes.
Councilmember Bendo.
Yes.
Vice President Treston.
Yes.
President McGinnis.
Yes.
Item 17 is a resolution authorizing publication for hearing of an ordinance to amend the Code of Ordinances of the City of Long Beach regarding automatic alarm systems. Would you just move the adoption of this item?
I will.
Second?
I will.
Voting, Councilmember Postoli.
Yes.
Councilmember Lester.
Yes.
Councilmember Bendo.
Yes.
Vice President Treston.
Yes.
President McGinnis.
Yes.
And finally, item 19, wrong sheet, there we go, is a resolution authorizing publication for hearing of a local law amending the charter of the City of Long Beach regarding the Zoning Board of Appeals. Would you just move the adoption of this item?
I will.
Second?
I will.
Voting, Councilmember Postoli.
Yes.
Councilmember Lester.
Yes.
Councilmember Bendo.
Yes.
Vice President Treston.
Yes.
President McGinnis.
Yes.
City Clerk has filed the City Manager's monthly personnel report. Who will make a motion to close the meeting?
I will.
Second?
I will.
Voting, Councilmember Postoli.
Yes.
Councilmember Lester.
Yes.
Councilmember Bendo.
Yes.
Vice President Treston.
Yes.
President McGinnis.
Yes.
Okay.
What's that? Oh, do I know?
Oh, I know.
Oh.
I know, it's all bets off when you put nothing in the grave.
Okay, this is the good and welfare part of the meeting, or it's after the meeting, actually. And people are able to ask questions. They introduce themselves with their name and their address, and you have up to 3 minutes to speak. And at that time, the timer goes off. The first person is Mr. James Hodge. Number 1. Your 3 minutes starts now.
James Hodge, 95 East Fulton Street in this amazing, great city. I got sand in my shoes and a little dirt because I live by the bay. But I have Long Beach in my system, and I'm happy to be here. I hope everybody had a great Labor Day. Let me get to my point. I just happened to come, and I was going to really focus my time on the critical infrastructure. So I hope, and thank you, Harold, for doing a great story on that, and Crystal and so many others. And we've been speaking for many years, so I hope that we do whatever we got to do to look at the plan, and then it can happen, and we can build up the bay and make it more sustainable and make it better so that we stop getting flooded around the Bay Area and around Long Beach. I was sitting down and I saw a video, and it disturbed my spirit. Working for the city of Long Beach, I was able to start a senior program with the recreation, with Paul Ferrante and the great staff at the rec. I was able to start a senior program, pet therapy, when I worked at the animal shelter also. My mother and father taught me to love seniors. My grandmother and grandparents, they're all gone. My mother and father's gone, but I hope that I'm making them proud in heaven. But my father, as a pastor, always brought me to the nursing home, and we used to go around and see all of the seniors. I am appalled and angry that I sat and saw a video of children jumping on a senior. From Nevada to Maple, from the bay to the ocean, we should all be outraged when any children seem like they are misguided, and whoever was the leader. I wish, because I used to do a lot of community service with children, I wish that all of those children, boys and girls, were able to do some time with me, because I think that they would learn, no matter what part of the city of Long Beach, that they will never put their hands on a senior again. I taught Taekwondo for many years, but it was more self-defense and structure and discipline. Those children need sometimes not just the law, but sometimes we need to see what's going on in their mind that they would touch a senior. I think that even in city council meetings, when we see a lot of seniors come and they're here to talk about one particular issue, you have the power to put everything on hold and allow our seniors not to be here so late at night and hear their voices. I'm saddened that they had to. I'm sorry that I don't want y'all to take my time. Let me finish talking about y'all. So I want the city, the police department, it's not just on them, but it's on our community. I saw some people run out with sticks or whatever to support the young man that was being jumped on. I don't know the whole story, but I know I'm frustrated in my last 5 seconds, because they were clapping. In my last 5 seconds, I am frustrated. But we must do something with the frustration, Madam Chairperson, City Manager and Council and Police Commissioner. As a city, We must let these children know, every last one of them need to come in and we need to deal with them. I don't know what's going on with them. I don't even know the whole story, but I saw the video and I literally almost cried sitting over there.
Okay, you owe me 10 seconds. Next
Okay,
meeting.
so again, in my conclusion, please let us do whatever we got to do to protect the most vulnerable in our city, and that's our seniors. Again, let's do something.
Thank you, Mr. Hodge. Eileen Hession. Commissioner, and then Eileen Hession.
Good evening, everybody. Mr. Hodge, I'm assuming you're talking about the video that was released on Newsday and made it to Facebook with the down on the East End with the gentleman in the bush. Okay, so all I want to do, this is still an active investigation, but I will say this. You saw a piece of a video that is not representative of the story that actually took place. Information I learned today is I'm a lot happier that those kids were able to defend themselves. Let's just leave it at that for now, okay? So it is a developing investigation. I was appalled at the video and disturbed by it myself because of the way it looked and the way it felt to me, but the 30 seconds before that tells a completely different story. So I'll just leave it at that, and it's an ongoing investigation. But trust me when I tell you, no stone is left unturned in this police department. We work very diligently to get to the bottom of things that sometimes people never think we're going to be able to get to the bottom of, and we're working on this one, okay? Thank you. And I appreciate your concern, too. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner. Ms. Hession?
Do you want me to wipe this, or are you okay? No. Here, just in case. I don't want to wind up getting COVID. It's not happening.
Eileen Hession, Long Beach. The first thing I want to say is that I have asked about the Hebrew Academy many, many times here over the past few years, and I would like to thank Rich Shue for all the information that he shared with me. He went to the former Hebrew Academy at 530 West Broadway. He showed me the list of violations that he heard and what he did with them. He spent a lot of time with me, and he also sent a crew, I guess, to help clean up. It still doesn't look like a palace, but it has some of the glass is gone and so forth. So I would like to thank Rich Shue very much for the time that he put into that. The second thing is an invitation. The Long Beach Historical Society, in celebration of the 100th year centennial of Long Beach, is also celebrating their 25th year anniversary of the Historical Society Museum. They will be hosting a gala event to celebrate this milestone on Saturday, October 15th at 7 p.m. at Temple Emmanuel in Long Beach. This event will have a Roaring '20s theme, will serve dinner, wine, beer, live music. We've received many raffle prizes from the Barrier Island businesses in support of this event. We intend to have a 50-50 raffle. Due to COVID, the Historical Society was limited to their arts and crafts fair, which has left them in dire need for funds for repairs to the museum, the roof, window replacements, and essential bills. We are hoping that you, the City Council, the City Manager, your staff, and employees who help to make our city special will support the Long Beach Historical Society. Honorees at this event will be Roberta Fiore, the founder and past president of the Historical Society, and former city manager Ed Eaton. We have flyers about this, and if you need more information, there are a lot of pieces on Facebook, or you can call Jackie Odom. Tickets are available in several different ways, by check, through Jackie, etc. I have more information too if anybody is interested in that. And the third thing that I want to say is that we do have a very strong contingent of community members attending tonight to ask questions about the Magnolia Center. That group of people is very strong. They can sit through a long meeting like this. You don't have to change your agenda. They attend exercise classes at least 5 days a week, including pickleball. Thank you very much. I'm so happy to see them participating. And in my last 5 seconds, I will say, I hope to see them at these meetings again. They don't always last this long. And I will let them speak for themselves. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, Jean Brown. And I know the city website also posted about the Historical Society Gala as well. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. McNally.
Jeannie Brown, 559 East Park Avenue. And it's really just ditto Eileen. We hear that you're cutting funds for the senior center. I don't know the details, but I just want to say I've lived here my entire life, and finally I can use the senior center. And now I hear that everything is being cut. So I'm asking that you reconsider if that is, you know, what you're intending to do. It's a very vital place that a lot of people go to, and, you know, we support it. And second thing is, I'm a co-president of the Historical Society, so ditto Eileen, okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
Excuse me, can you just tell us, where are you hearing this? Where are you hearing this?
Someone came to the center and said that a random streaker, say again, a random streaker.
A representative?
No, I think what ended up happening was that the budget for the senior center, and correct me if I'm wrong, Ina, they were given the wrong amount. And so it was, when we corrected it and said, no, you're looking at the wrong line item, it appeared that we were cutting what they were to receive. But what they received was what was in the budget. We know, go ahead, Ina, we know that we did not do any cuts from what has been originally in the budget that we had done. Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So if someone is cutting funds, I'd like to know who, because I'm a city controller, the CFO for the city, city manager. We're unaware of any cuts. Also, the budget is a process, right? So now there wouldn't be a time and a process for the cuts. The budget was adopted. The budget is on the city's website, and it's active. And you can see it there. It's through June 30th of 2023. The discussions for the next year budget didn't start yet, yeah, it's absolutely a far-fetched. I don't know who is spreading these rumors, but you could see the budget, and if you have any questions, you're welcome to reach out to me personally, and we can go line item by line item. It's,
You know, can you clarify if did the budget for this current fiscal year starting July 1st for the senior center, did it go down versus last year?
well, I don't have it in front of me. I don't believe so. Again, there was a process from April to May of this year when the budget was, when we had budget hearings and the budget was voted on and approved. And again, please reach out to me if you have any questions about any particular items, because we did not have any specific cuts aimed at any of those programs.
Okay. Maybe. Okay.
Whatever is in the budget will be funded. Our budgets are balanced, so whatever is in the budget, it's all been funded, and you will not have any cuts.
Versus the budget. Okay, the
Versus
next
the
speaker
budget.
is Jackie Odom. For good and welfare, the process is that you sign up, and then you're allowed to, you come up to the platform, podium, and speak for approximately 3 minutes. Okay? Also, I think I'm going to have to join your exercise class one morning, and then I'll get some feedback on the budget stuff, and there. I have aged so much in this job that I think I am there. And I'm a grandma, so. Ms. Odom.
Jackie Odom, Long Beach. Good evening to the council and to the city manager. My subject is strictly on the MLK Center. I want to start out by thanking every trailblazer who gave themselves as a team, whose solely prepared was to reach out and work hard towards a dream. It brings me to my focus point. The dream has been crushed. The big question is, what is the status of the city building and the MLK Inc., which is being housed at 615 Riverside Boulevard? My observations. Because of the situation between the city and MLK Inc., it has had a great impact on the community, such as residents, families, and youth benefits. Example, limit programs to serve the community. Building has been underutilized. The summer that just passed broke my heart to see so many young people out on the streets with nowhere to go, nowhere to guide, nobody to guide them, and they're just out there. A lot of the families do not have monies to go to summer programs. So to me, to see this year was very heartbreaking. And this is not the first year that this has happened. So I hope that we would have a heart and come to some kind of conclusion for our complete Long Beach community. Enough is enough. We need programs for our youth and family. Please be a part of the solution and put every effort to unite in the struggle to build on tomorrow for our youth. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Kathleen O'Leary.
Kathleen O'Leary, Long Beach. I would like to speak about the wind farm, and in 3 minutes I would like to speak about the optics of it, the location of the electrical main, and the easement that the Hamptons charged the government for when they put the wind farm up in the Hamptons. First of all, just personally, I like to see a cleaned horizon. I'm not really happy with these ships that are out there. I thought it was going to be temporary, but now it's like 5 years, so I don't get it. What I'd like to know is, are we going to see the windmills out in the ocean, and are we going to see the red lights on each windmill, which are said to be seen for 35 miles? Okay, that's the visual part. With the cable running through Long Beach to Island Park, you're running it, or the government is running it through highly populated areas, mainly the area east of Park and North Park. And without doing a survey, I have a feeling that North Park has the highest number of children in the city. And the electromagnetic waves are going to be going. I could cite you many examples from the 50s, 60s, 40s, where people said things were safe. 20 years later, they were not so safe, including smoking cigarettes, okay? So I haven't heard anything about how safe this is. We're just assuming it is safe for adults and children. There are many areas on the east end of the barrier island where nobody lives, and that would be a better site for this huge electrical cable. Lastly, Frank McQuaid, I think it was 2 months ago, brought up the fact that the Hamptons charged for the cables to go through their property. I would like to know what the city manager and the council has done to investigate that. Have they contacted that? I think it was West Hampton. Have they contacted them? Can they figure out what they did, how much they charged? And last of all, we are facing a $75 million judgment. If we could offset that judgment with charging for them to run under city land, I think it would be a great idea. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. O'Leary, just if you want to know what it's going to look like, if you go online and Google Empire Wind, there's a website for the project, and they have a video that will show you at different times of the day what you will see, including at night with the light. You see little specks off in the distance. You know, what you see where the ships are at night, that is much, much closer than these will be. The closest one will be about 16 or 17 miles out, and that's the closest, and then they go further out from there. So, but like I said, there's a video that you can see what it looks like.
And I just want to mention also, just you made a point. You said that there was a $75 million judgment. And this has been really painful for the council, for everyone in this community to go through. It was actually a $140 million judgment, which this administration negotiated down to $75 million.
I understand that.
Okay.
I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
It pains me that
Mm-hmm.
the people that are responsible for us getting charged the $140 million is still works for the city, but that's a different issue.
Okay. Mr. McNally?
So I would, Equinor, who's the developer for Empire Wind, is in the Article 7 process, or they're starting the Article 7 process, which is sort of an archaic term for they're going through the big review process by concurrently the state and federal government. The city will be a party to that, so any developments that take place throughout that process, we will be alerted to. West Hampton, I don't know the exact number, but they had a community benefits agreement that they came to. We are certainly looking at the same thing. We've been very upfront with Equinor to say, if this moves forward, and for the amount of resources from a federal and state level that have been put forward to it, this stage of the game, it's a national priority to do offshore wind. But if this goes forward, there is clearly going to be an impact. You know, Councilman Bendo is correct, they look very small, but there is a permanency to them, whereas the shipping containers move. I will tell you, they originally came to the city with their preferred route, and it went straight up Riverside, and we essentially told them drop dead. Because that, you know, you want to talk about an environmental justice, so their preferred routes now go, you know, really around the heart of the North Park community, but they still want to cross the channel. We will be in negotiations with them. We are on it. We have bi-weekly information calls with them, and we have been pushing them very heavily to, now that summer is out, to start having community engagement meetings. So they're going to start, you'll see over the next couple of weeks, they will start making announcements that they're going to have open houses and information sessions, so everybody can start to wrap their brains around what this thing is.
Okay. Appreciate that.
You got it.
Henrietta Staub.
So I'm Henrietta Staub, from Long Beach, and I want to talk to you about the senior center. Now, I do apologize. I didn't come during April, May, and June during the budget negotiations, and I do apologize. But I really didn't think that was going to be necessary. But I'd like to just tell you that I am concerned about the lack of funds for the programs there. If you want to come to one of the exercise classes, you have to choose from only 2 or 3. That's all that's available. They can't hear me.
We've got a rough crowd tonight, Henrietta.
I know, my goodness. And I brought most of them with me.
We're not all seasoned vets, everybody. A little bit of patience.
All right. Should I just go back and stand? Am I too tall? Oh, God, no. I might. No. Okay, all right. So I was going to say, if you want to come for any of the exercise classes, you have only 2 or possibly 3 to pick from, unless you want to play pickleball. But in pickleball, you have to pick the court that has a net, because one of the courts does not, because there's no money to buy one. So I just want to tell you a little bit about the active senior program there. Before COVID, which was a couple of years ago, we had a very thriving program there. We had 7 to 8 different types of programs, not just exercise classes. We had art programs, we had theater programs, we had discussions, we had all kinds of things going on. And the budget for that was about $55,000, $60,000 for the year. And that included everything that we wanted to do, including lectures. Now, some of the lectures we got were free, and some we had to pay for, but this is, part of what we do. And one of the things, just as a side note, is that the seniors had access to 2 rooms, the main large room and then a smaller room. And at times we could use both of them, of course, because we had the 2 of them to run 2 programs at the same time. But now the smaller room has been taken away and we have only 1 large room. So if you want to come and chat with us about the budget, about nutrition, whatever, we have to cancel all the exercise programs in order to accommodate you. So I want you to realize that these programs that we had, they really help us re-engage in different kinds of activities. And for some of us, we find new vocations and new ways of doing things. And right now, this program is so limited. And also, because of COVID, we can only handle 20 people at a time in a class, which seems fair to me. But that means that out of the hundreds of seniors that have registered to participate, we can only accommodate 20, 40, possibly 60 people, except on pickleball days when we can have 2 activities at the same time. So these are issues that we have. And I want to say that what I heard, this is gossip, I was told that the program was given initially $10,000 for the year. That covers nothing. That's about 6 to 8 weeks worth of programs. Then somehow they got another, is that my 3 minutes?
Yes.
Oh my God, and I have so much more to say.
So what I would suggest is that you call my office tomorrow, or when you can, or call Ina and meet with us. 1, so we can get to the bottom of the gossip. And 2,
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but what I'd like to do, if we're going to do that, I'd like to bring a few people so that we can have a full, meaningful discussion.
Fine. That's fine. You can call and make an appointment, and you can come in, and we will talk about the budget for seniors. We will talk about prior years and current years.
It's not really a budget for seniors. I don't really think that's the proper term.
It's senior programs.
It's for active. All the people going to this for years now, we're all very active. We're all very involved in things. And as I just said, some of us have found vocations we didn't even know we had, like coming up here and talking on a microphone.
Right. So, yeah, if you would just call and make an appointment, and you can bring as many people, we can meet in the room over there, the OEM room, and we can discuss it.
Okay. And Mr. Lester, we'd love to see you there.
Thank you. I do have a question, though. Ina, where is the senior programming in the budget? Under what? Is it under MLK, or, under Magnolia Community Center, or Youth and Family, or?
I had to consult with Monique, and we have actually programming under contracted services in Youth and Family Services Department, as well as Magnolia Center.
Okay, because I have the budget here in front of me, and I'm trying to find, there's nothing that says senior programs.
No,
it's under contracted services.
It's what?
contracted services.
Contracted services.
We don't have a department called senior programs. It's under, we have contracted services in Magnolia Center and in a youth and family
I
services.
just see that as $4,000.
But go to Youth and Family Services.
Yeah.
And it says $35,000.
Contracted services.
Right, but we need to look at all of this, and we need to talk about how it was funded in the past. So I look forward to speaking to you all.
Well, I would like to see the senior advisory board meet with the city manager and the controller on this. Is that possible?
Yeah.
Okay, the senior advisory board, please call the city manager's office tomorrow. Okay. Okay, so I'm glad that the senior advisory board, as representatives from our community, can meet with the city manager's office and get to the bottom of this, and we can get the story straight.
Yes.
Okay. Crystal Lake.
Thank you. Crystal Lake, good evening. Thank you, Mr. Barrios, for the update regarding the North Shore Critical Infrastructure project. Could you explain what exactly are the issues currently that's slowing down the process now? Could you disclose that information or give us an overview as has happened in the past? And may I also say that on or about 2013, Governor Cuomo came to North Park. The initial funding came from the governor's office at that time, approximately $12.5 million for the North Shore Critical Infrastructure Project. 9 years later, we're still waiting for the project to commence. At some point in time, the funds will have to be returned if they're not utilized. And I think that might be, approximately 2023? So at this point in time, this matter is becoming crucial. Why are we going to, just get to the point where the funds could potentially be returned? So that's why I'm asking, what are the concerns now, if you could, Mr. Barrios? I do truly appreciate all of your input and your assistance. But at this point in time, and if anyone could confirm when the funds would have to be returned, if the project is not started by a certain date, when would the funds have to be returned for this particular project that in all essence protects the city of Long Beach's critical infrastructure, and more importantly to me is human life, North Park in particular, and all the other residents who would also benefit from the funds from this project beginning as soon as possible. It'll take at least 2 years to complete. There should be some short-term measures that would be implemented, just as New York City is doing since Hurricane Ida, those temporary, inflatable dams or whatever they're called. There should be short and long-term measures. The entire city, the rest of the city of Long Beach has some protections in place. North Park has nothing, absolutely nothing. And everyone in Long Beach should be saying, the porta potties were on the corners during Hurricane Sandy. I haven't forgotten that. It was a horrific event, and we were not prepared. So preparedness is crucial at this time. And would you please give me an update on what the current circumstances might be that are delaying the process?
One thing I just wanted to mention is that we do have an extension from FEMA that expires December 31st, 2023. At that point, we would have to request another extension, but there is a possibility that we will lose $39,500,000.
It is a subject of negotiation and discussion, so I don't want to sour any discussions that have been had thus far.
Okay.
Our discussion has revolved around kind of generally speaking, the allocation of shifting the burden to who carries the bag when something bad happens. That's what we're discussing right now. I can't really go into
Okay.
a great deal of detail on that.
Okay.
But they have been receptive to our feedback on that, as we have to theirs. Like I said, we've each kind of given each other mutual homework to look into it. I think we should have an answer within a week.
God bless you.
If there is indeed some sort of impasse, or if we reach a point of no return where someone has to draw a line in the sand, I'll provide that update if and when it happens.
Okay.
But I'm optimistic that at least we'll get an answer within 7 days before I take a position one way or another on it.
All right, thank you. And you will continue to provide updates?
Till the day we sign it.
Okay, thank you. And one other thing, when I was speaking before about grants, and I was speaking about financing bonds or debt, so the debt portion should be able to be absorbed by a new owner.
Okay.
All right, thank you
All
so
right.
much for your time.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
I just realized I hadn't moved in all that time.
It's like an airplane. Yeah, wiggle your toes.
Stood up and was like,
You should wiggle your toes. You should actually get up and move. That's something you're going to do like that airplane walk.
just like kick my legs out.
Stretch out a little bit.